everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. Today's guest is Geleen Antonio, an AI and automation strategist with over a decade of experience in healthcare consulting and tech. She specializes in helping therapists and mental health professionals streamline their operations, improve client experience, and implement AI in a way that still feels deeply human. Through her work at TNTE Solutions and her platform, Travel Not to Escape, she's bridging the gap between clinical care and tech and making automation feel actually doable for practice owners. Geleen, welcome. So glad to have you here. Really excited to dive into this topic with you.
Yay, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, Kim.
Thank you. So let's start with your background. How did you go from healthcare consulting to working with therapists on automation and AI?
Yeah, so I have a decade of experience working in healthcare consulting in all different aspects. So working specifically with healthcare, national healthcare systems in the US, doing things like figuring out their own operations and the financial modeling and contracting. So basically a jack of all trades when it comes to working with hospitals and clinics as well, from all different types of divisions throughout the hospital, mostly working with the administrative, of course, but I was there like valuing machineries and equipment as well. So
Wow.
It was a long, as you start off in consulting, you start off doing a lot of analytics, you do a lot of more of the grunt work in consulting until you start doing more strategy and operations. So I was really there. Most consultants actually only last 2 years, and I was chugging along after 6 years because it is a really time intensive career and you're constantly going from project to project. At any given point, I had like 25 different projects across 25 different hospital systems and a lot of exciting projects to work on. But I realized that the work that I was doing, I wasn't always excited about. As I mentioned, sometimes I was doing inventory of different types of clinical equipment and trying to figure out their value. Like those types of projects I wasn't so excited to do. The ones that I was actually more passionate about was when I was seeing the impact of the work that I was doing. And when I was able to work side by side with a physician and maybe improve their operations within their surgical unit so that they could see more patients or have more quality care. Things of that nature, I think, were more purpose-driven for me because the whole reason I got into healthcare was I wanted my work to have an impact. So I took a step back. I actually pivoted from consulting into tech, working with software companies, primarily focused on creating solutions that were like vaccines, for example, that were based on modifying DNA, RNA sequences. Some of my clients were doing genetically modified, either like agriculture. Some of them were also working on 3D printing lungs and other organs, or modifying the cells of pigs to be more human-like so that those could be good for transplantation. So in that process, I did a lot of diving into like the work that they were doing, which was amazing and so impactful. And then also realizing that they needed organization as well. Like at any step, there was organization that was needed in order to make some of these meaningful things happen. So while the scientists were trying to organize their data, collect the data, and try to get this published so that it could go in and they could actually release whatever drug or therapy that they were trying to get out into the world, a lot of it really came down to their workflows. Like, how are they connecting all of their workflows together? There's so many different parts of a team, and how are you getting the approvals across if so many hands are like touching things and it's all on paper and you can't actually get this to a point to where you can analyze it, take a step back, and really understand the impact. So even in this particular software, I was working with Benchling, even with this particular software, they were already going down the road of machine learning and AI and taking a look at if we can get all of that information into our platform, and then from the platform have machine learning AI be able to digest it so that these experiments don't have to physically be done. Maybe there can be a component where you're modeling this, and then through that modeling be able to scale and then take a look at what the actual results are from there. So it sped up a lot of some of these drug discovery and therapy discovery cycles. And it was really cool to see.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. So I really loved the work that I did. But again, it was around the 2020 to 2022 period when I was shifting my own lifestyle. And I really also wanted to have a bit more of work-life balance. I wanted to see the world. And I shifted my own lifestyle to become a digital nomad. And unfortunately, with corporate work in the US, there's not so much of an alignment between corporate and living in any city that you want. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's the same issue that you all run into in therapy and in counseling is there's licensing restrictions, there's insurance, and all hosts of regulations that tell you that's not actually like we would love for you to do that, but from our documentation and paperwork standpoint, like that's just not possible. So I started really thinking about, okay, so let me take a step back. I had burned myself out of that very technical role anyway, and so I took a step back and decided to really focus on the travel community because this was the lifestyle that I was building. And I was also going through my own personal journey at the moment of trying to understand who was I, what did I want out of my life, how did I want my life to look like. And I was meeting a lot of travelers in that process who were also going through very similar journeys, but all of us, we didn't have the usual support systems that we had from connections that we had at home. And we also were no longer able to connect with our existing providers for mental health because of the licensing issues.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
And so experiencing that myself and then also experiencing that in conversations with others, I started really thinking like, what can we do? Because we're struggling with some of these issues and challenges while we're traveling, but we don't have the usual support infrastructure because we're traveling. And so it's been a couple of years of really formulating like, how can I make an impact in this space? And so that's where Travel Not to Escape started forming, was to get people, the traveler community together so that we could have these discussions together and not feel so alone in the issues that we were experiencing. But it was more than that, right? Because you can talk amongst each other, but it's the same thing with your normal friends. You can talk amongst each other and you can relate, but you need some more expert perspectives, some third-party perspectives. And so that's where I started tapping back into my consulting background and thinking, okay, how can I work with mental health providers, understand what their problems are, and perhaps help them become, more independent with their time, maybe connect also with travelers, and what does that bridge look like to be able to connect the experts to the travelers that are needing this help. Exactly. So that's really why I'm in the middle.
Yeah. So using your consultancy background, but also like connecting it with mental health. So putting together resources so nomads can have mental health support, which is amazing to me. I just think that's so cool. And then I guess along the way, you started like connecting with clinicians, right? To put them on your platform. And then with your organizational background, I'm assuming that's where you came up with this, like, okay, I can also do some consultancy with these therapists around the systems they're using in their own practices.
Exactly. That's how that came about. Yeah, because for the Travel Not to Escape podcast, I wanted to interview not just the travelers that were struggling with the issues, but also the mental health providers that could actually share a bit of their expertise, the modalities that they use, the why, and how they could actually connect with this community. And as we started talking before and after the shows, I would ask them like, oh, do you currently see nomads? How are you reaching your clients? And also AI is just a hot topic at the moment too. And so that's when I started exploring like, how can I use my background with what I was already doing in the past, dip into it, help this community of mental health providers while also connecting them to the travelers. So yeah, it's been a really beautiful marriage between the two.
It's so cool. You have the coolest story. So now you've worked with so many clinicians and you've probably seen on the therapist side that they feel stuck in their processes and their practices operationally. So I'm just curious, where do you see the breakdown for therapists in their practices, like operationally, like trying to run their practices and maybe even be nomads themselves or, trying to connect to, a global audience of potential clients that you're trying to connect them with? Where do you see the breakdown for a lot of people? And where do you see
Yeah.
like ways to patch that up for them?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest complaint that I've heard is marketing. People are
Yes.
trying to reach new customers, new clients. How do you do that? Specifically, if you're trying to reach travelers too, like how do you actually do that?
Yeah.
And there's a ton of directories out there, but how do you know what the return on investment is for each one of those, right? Because there's even like a lowering of return on investments for some of the even bigger therapist directories. And then a lot of therapists are burning themselves out trying to create content and trying to get on that wheel of like, how do I get myself out there and what's the funnels? And so they're having to learn this whole separate system of marketing and SEO and burning themselves out on all of these more administrative things before even seeing a patient. So a lot of it is like, how do I get financial stability? How do I reach more clients? And that's really the biggest two hurdles, I feel like, until you get to a point where you have both and then it's time to optimize. So I think it comes in phases and it depends on how long you've been in practice, the systems that you have in place, if you're a solo practitioner or you have administrative staff or other providers that you're working with. So I feel like there's no one set answer, no one set solution, which is why I try to come at it more from a personalized standpoint of like, let's actually dive into your specific practice and understand, what is your specific issue? What do you have? What are your processes? And then we can go and actually take a look at where you're spending your specific time. And from there, come up with a plan that's going to suit you, suit your practice, suit your priorities, and then give you the time that you need to make the impact that you want to make. So it's not just a matter of like, let me just like add AI into my content marketing and make that happen. Or like, let me just add AI to this particular part of my process and do that. But I think it's important to take a step back because yes, while there are certain buckets that are going to be the same across each practice, like where you are at and where priority you have is going to be so dependent on the individual.
Yeah, totally. And not every therapist, I guess, is wanting to use social media, but I feel like it is becoming necessary to market yourself. The directories are oversaturated, really.
Yeah.
So if a therapist comes to you and wants help with like operationally with their workflow and they're like, gosh, I'm stuck with the marketing and trying to put myself on social media, would you pretty much be like, AI is going to be your best friend with this? And would you have like specific solutions or suggestions to incorporate AI specifically into the marketing and the social media piece for them?
Yeah, I would take a step back first and see what they're currently doing already.
Okay.
Yeah. So a part of this does come with like, let's take a step back. Let's analyze like, what are you doing? Are you already on social media? Are you focused in ranking really high on SEO? Are you paying for ads? Are a lot of your leads coming in through directories right now, or is it coming in from your referral network? So let's take a look at what the whole picture is. And if they're at the point where they're trying to at least just like stabilize to a certain level, let's double down on the things that we know work. If you're trying to start off on social media, but you don't even have a full client list and you're wanting to spend all this time trying to create social media from scratch, I don't think that that's the right direction. If you're getting a lot of your leads right now through your referral network, let's stabilize and get you to a point where you're getting leads solidly from that part before you introduce a whole new system that you're not even sure will work.
That is such good advice. Oh my gosh. Could you share a real example of a therapist or a wellness provider that you've helped map out their processes and like what shifted for them after they were able to do that and get that implemented?
Yeah. So there was one that I think that another big hurdle is getting things organized from the client lead. So it's like once you have the leads, the process of responding to that particular lead and getting them signed into your system, that whole process can sometimes take 20 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on all the work that you're doing manually. And also with this particular provider, she was using an EHR system that she wasn't necessarily taking full advantage of all of the features that were part of this EHR system. And so part of this project was mapping out her full process, understanding where she was spending the bulk of her time from like start to finish, all the way to like billing even. From there, we were able to identify 10 different improvement projects. And then we realized from there, she was spending so much time on emails. So the first part really was optimizing like that whole front end of making sure that she wasn't spending her time like 4 to 5 hours per week just answering emails. So it was a matter of setting up some templates, setting up some AI generated responses and a scheduling link, and then connecting her calendars into her EHR system. So a lot of these things, like, yes, you can use AI to optimize certain components like the copy or maybe even the connection so that it's automated. But a lot of it is you could just make some tweaks to your current system, and you don't have to pay a subscription for another AI tool and have to learn a whole new AI tool. So I think that's what's important in this particular case. We were able to save her time with her whole email flow and client lead system just by creating a whole new calendar linking Simply Meet and being able to funnel her leads from her website directly into this calendar booking system that then filtered whether or not it was a good candidate based on their responses, so that she wasn't having to take 20 minutes per client just to see whether they were a good fit when she could have some additional filters on there already. So all this part of the process, you don't even really need a complex AI tool for. And I think that's what I want a lot of mental health providers to take a step back and understand is, while it's like sexy to know about all the different AI tools and how important they are, you don't want to overwhelm yourself when there could be a much simpler solution.
Oh my gosh, there's just so many options, and every day it's like something new. It's like, oh, maybe I should be using that. You know, it can get super overwhelming. So what do you normally see when people start automating processes or analyzing their systems and processes? What do you see like the first noticeable outcome that they have from like kind of analyzing this and implementing better things in place? Like, what do you see happen with them?
I think it's like, I would compare it to when your whole house is just disorganized. Like there's dishes in the sink, there's like clothes that haven't been folded or even washed in a while, and like the trash is full, and you know that you have to do these things right before you can go in and understand like, oh, do I replace that furniture? Do I want a different painting there? Like, but if your house is so messy, you're not going to be able to actually take a good look and figure out like, how do I decorate it? What's more comfortable for me? And so I think that's the same feeling that people get, is like once they organize everything and just clean it all up, they're like, yes, I do need a new bookshelf right there. That would help me. But before then, you just feel so overwhelmed by the next fire that you're not necessarily thinking strategically. And I feel like a lot of providers as well end up spending a lot of money on different subscriptions, and those add up. And until part of it that I look at as well is their operations expenses. I'm like, what are all the things that you're subscribing to right now? Let's take a look at how much money you're spending. It's very important to know how much money you're spending, because all that money could be going towards maybe a different tool that maybe is more all-inclusive. Maybe there's something that actually has like 5 different features that you need all at once, but because you're spending it on like 5 different things that aren't actually connected to each other, you're giving yourself a harder time and spending more than you would if you just had the one tool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And what we're talking about really is something you do, and it's called process mapping, right? If we want to give it like an official name.
Yeah.
So could you explain, I mean, we're sort of explaining it, but maybe just for people listening, like naming it and kind of saying like, this is what this process actually is.
Yeah. So it's taking a look at what your procedures are.
Okay.
Like from start to finish. What are you doing in your practice? What are the absolute essential pieces of your day-to-day that have to happen for your business to run? And that's going from how do your clients find you to how do they connect with you and then get into your system. And then from there, how do you see them? The process of taking the notes and making sure that you are impactful in the work that you're doing and analyzing that. And then all the way down to the billing process as well. And marketing goes into the client leads too. So each one of these parts of your business is its own flow. And in a practice that's efficient, they all flow together in a nice automated way. But what I find a lot of the times, ideally, yeah, but because we're all solopreneurs and we start off in business and we're like, oh, let me do this thing and then let me do this thing, and everything now is dependent on you. And this is the same process that you would have to go through if you were to hire out an administrative or someone else to replace part of your workflow. So by organizing it before you do AI, this also helps you for organizing, just offloading your time in different avenues.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Yeah, you get your time back. That's the key, right? It's like, how can I get more time to actually live my life and not be so burned out?
Yeah, but
Totally.
then it's also quantifying the time, because we also want to take a look at the expenses and validating, okay, if I'm spending 10 hours of my week doing this one process of manually answering emails, manually posting content, whatever it is that you're manually doing. So if you're like $200 an hour, 10 hours a week, like what tool can replace that time and also give you peace of mind of, yes, I'm spending this tool because I know it's saving me this amount of time and it's only $20 a month compared to the 10 hours of my clinical time that I could be using to do this. And so it gives you a strategy and priority as well of like what's going to be the most, like the lowest hanging fruit and the biggest bang for your buck.
Love that. I know that everybody's totally individualized and different. Every therapist has different processes and everything, but are there like a couple of go-to tools that you're almost always recommending that are sort of affordable but really effective to just help therapists specifically with their workflows, or just clients in general that are trying to do this process mapping? Do you have like a couple that you're like, yeah, I would always say use this, or I would always like check this one out, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, for the process mapping itself, like I ran for your clinical AI club, I like to use tools that are free for this because we also want to make sure that we're not spending money just for this process. So I just recommend whatever AI tool that you're using right now for an LLM system, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, have the conversation and have some specific prompts. I gave you some prompts. And so there's some specific prompts that you can use so that it can help you understand your workflow and help you identify the time saved and also help you craft the process map. And then I use Miro AI as well because it's also free. And then
Love
Miro
free.
AI, love free, love these tools. And then Miro AI to visualize it. And so you get all the information already from chat and have it ask you the questions that you need and help you prioritize the time level. And then you can put all of that into Miro AI so you can have a visual of how things are actually flowing. And then once you have that visual, you can then prioritize like sections of the tasks that you want to do. I'm actually building something right now because we were having these discussions and I was directing people to use chat and Miro and Replit. I'm getting into vibe coding. And so Replit is a site that I love where you can actually prompt it to whatever it is that you're wanting to create. And so I'm using it to help me streamline this whole workflow creation process. So you can go in and actually just type in, there's going to be some templated areas. The process is similar, and then you can customize it based off of your process, whether PHI or no PHI is included, and how much time you're spending, and then have it recommend some specific tools that will replace certain areas for you. So I'm excited. I'm like playing around with it right now, but Replit's also one of my top tools if you're wanting to create something from scratch. You can play around with it for free, but then if you're going to deploy the agent, it does have like a monthly cost, but I find it's affordable based off of like the actual results that it's providing. So that's been really nice.
And how do you spell that? Replit?
Replit.
Oh, okay. Replit, just like it sounds. Okay, that's cool. I haven't heard of that one. I gotta go check that out.
Oh my God, you're gonna fall in love. I spend like from 12 to 2 a.m. is usually my prime idea time.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I like get this idea and I'm like, that should exist in the world. And so I go in and essentially it's the developer that you can prompt just like you would prompt ChatGPT, but it would actually code in real time for you. So you can create some solutions, customized solutions for yourself that's instantly deployable after you have a few conversations.
Amazing.
Such a game changer.
I found something similar. I wonder if it's the same thing. It's called Manus. Have you heard of Manus.ai?
Oh, no.
Manus. This thing is incredible. I was like, oh, I've got a new offer in mind, that I want to offer. I was actually for therapists to AIify their private practices or to help them with different processes to make their lives easier. But I went to Manus and I typed it in. I took a screenshot of my website and just like showed it the brand colors and style and everything. And I said, I want you to just like make a whole new page based on this offer.
Oh,
And
wow.
it gave me the code in like 3 minutes. And it literally then told me how to, because I don't know how to do websites, but it literally told me
Yeah.
how to add it to my WordPress site as a whole new web page. And I had
Oh,
an offer. I mean, ChatGPT wrote the offer, but I had, the offer, the code, everything, and it walked me through how to put it on the WordPress site. And I did this all in an hour. And then I like posted about it on one of my social media pages, and I had like 3 people sign up for this high ticket offer. And I did all of this
wow.
in like one day, which is
Amazing.
crazy. But it was Manus that did it. It was like
Oh, okay.
it generated the code for me. So I wonder if it's similar, but it's
I'm looking at it now. So I love the fact that it tells you how to get the code and place it into your existing sites. That's actually really
yes.
useful.
Isn't that amazing?
Replit is more like if you wanted to build something completely custom. Say you wanted to build a whole new directory, or if you wanted it to build like an application for you, it'll actually code in real time a customized thing, and then you can deploy it as its own website.
That is so
Yeah.
cool. AI, like every day, I just hear about something else. I'm like, I just wish I had more
I
hours in the
know.
day to go play with all this stuff. Like, seriously.
Yes, exactly. So that's the whole point of the process mapping. So we can get you
Yes.
more hours.
Okay, I need to just set up a call with you.
Yeah, I know. I know. Usually it's like not the sexiest part of any time. You like
Yeah.
the sexy part is like you want to just jump in and start playing with the tools, right? But I think you need to give yourself the time and the finances to be able to play with those
Yes.
tools and actually feel good that you're doing something that's moving your practice forward. And that does require a bit of a step back just to take a look before you jump in.
Yes, yes, yes. That's very good advice. So, just kind of shifting back to the private practice thing with therapists, because this is primarily therapists are listening to this. When we're talking about like ethical and effective AI use in therapy practices, what is like top of mind for you right now? Like you're helping therapists remain HIPAA compliant,
Yeah.
increase their workflows, not put PHI to like ChatGPT and that sort of thing. Like what's top of mind for you like right now with the industry standards and what you're seeing out there? Just curious.
Yeah, that's always such a tricky thing because you're like, oh, this would help so much, but then you're like, but yes, you are
Yes.
technically adding it into the system. And so that's always something that I'm reviewing in real time. Actually, part of the thing that I'm working on with Replit is actually creating a workflow mapping that only recommends HIPAA compliant tools. And with that, there's like a flag that says PHI or no PHI is part of your process. So you know which parts of your process you can use X tool for versus Y tool. And I think that that's something that we're having to be like really careful of in real time as well, because you have to just double check and triple check. You're like, okay, because it's not very clear, right?
Yeah.
I wish there was just like a this tool, yes, this tool, no, but it depends on what part of your process you're integrating it in. And then also how it's feeding into the system. So like I ran a workflow on Zapier, but yes, if you're integrating the responses and there happens to be PHI in there, then you can't continue with that workflow. You have to take a step back and, for example, relabel it so only non-PHI emails go through a workflow process that get
Oh,
answered
smart.
automatically. And so you have to take a step back and separate the emails ahead of time before you run it into an automated AI system that isn't HIPAA compliant. So really, a lot of this is figuring it out and also understanding which part of your processes can go with AI and ones that like you really have to use an AI tool that is HIPAA compliant all the way through. Like for therapy notes, for example, like therapy notes, yes, 100% have to be HIPAA compliant.
Yes.
All of those.
For sure.
But like some of your marketing systems, they can go through a whole different process. Exactly. So yeah, just you have to identify like I think that's the thing that I'm working on now is creating a list of tools and for what portions of a workflow they can be applied to and what portions they can't. So that's something that I'm trying to organize right now.
I love that. Yeah. Cause I find myself always like Googling or chat GPTing, like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to help with the scheduling workflow for this, and that, which ones are HIPAA compliant and can connect to something else that's going to be HIPAA compliant. So it's like a whole thing. And here you talk about Zapier. For those of you listening, Zapier is a very powerful tool that you can connect different websites and apps and emails and all this stuff. And you can put these automations in place that just make your life so much easier. But then, like you're saying, for a therapist, that HIPAA compliant piece comes in. And I really like what you just said about flag it so it's not pulling the
Yeah.
ones with PHI. That's
Yeah.
super interesting because I just figured out a Zapier workflow where it's like I get an email in. If I flag the email, Zapier takes it, sends it to OpenAI. OpenAI answers the email, puts it back in my drafts in my inbox. And that's just been like a total game changer for me. But this is my business email, not my like client email stuff, you know? So somebody just asked me that question the other day. They were like, well, how can I do it with my clients? And I'm like, I don't know. I need to look into this more and figure out a way to do it. I wish more of these tools had that HIPAA compliance just built in, you know, that'd be amazing.
I know. I wish that was the case as well. But yeah, for now, it's understanding what their limitations are and then working around it. But yeah, for this one, because I had gone through that same workflow, and that was actually, I was like, oh, but how do you separate the ones because you don't want to feed in? So what I've gone around is for the ones that are clients, you'll have to just put them into an inbox, tag it with a specific label that is like clinical and like maybe have in some words that flag it as a patient email. And then you could either route that to like an automatic scheduling / form so that you can have a bit more differentiation before you dive in and do like a client call with them, or those just have to be manual for now. And then all the other ones you route through the AI system. So, or you buy a HIPAA compliant type of tool that will do that responding.
Yeah, so exactly. Are there any HIPAA compliant things that are like Zapier or?
No, not
that you know of. Yeah, okay, because I was like, wait, maybe there is one.
I was doing some searching and I haven't found one yet. So if anyone's listening,
you guys recommend. We want to help you. Help us help you. Yeah. With this. Okay. Well, I kind of like to just do like some quick questions that I know people are always curious about. So I'd love to just ask you like one tool you can't live without right now in your business that you're using, you know, probably AI-fied.
I would say it would just be chat. I talk to chat all the time. Yeah. ChatGPT. Yeah, ChatGPT. Like that's just going to be like, he's everything. Like my business partner, my everything partner, my travel planner. But I have mentioned like I'm probably on Replit like every other night trying to build something because it's kind of cool to be able to have an idea and see it come to life. Like that's always been my biggest hurdle was like I have these like big bold ideas, but like I don't have the coding background to be able to make it come to life.
Same.
And so to have something from an idea to a minimum viable product immediately after 10 different chat conversations, it's such a game changer for what you're trying to do.
It really is. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. I've got to get in there and play with Replit.
Yes.
So I always have these ideas.
Amazing.
And for therapists listening, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't build tools for your clients that you think if you're like an idea person like we are, you might have some ideas for like a mood tracker or stuff like that. So it sounds like a tool like this could be really effective.
Yes.
You know, especially if you want to specialize it for who you are as a therapist and, you know, your modalities and your personality and that sort of thing. You could totally make these tools like client-facing tools that, you know, they could choose whether they put PHI into it or not. Like that's up to them kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like in between sessions, if you wanted to create something where they would be still thinking about certain reflective things or have like meditations on there in between, I think that this is definitely a tool that you can use to create something simple and just test it out to see if it would be helpful. I think that's the great thing is like you can test it out with a small group, see if it's helpful. And then from there, you can choose whether or not you want to expand it.
That's awesome. So best advice you've received working in this space from maybe a guru or a mentor around like working with AI?
I think for this one is all the tools can do all the things. I think it's just a matter of prioritizing and learning one at a time. I think that's like the best advice that I've gotten. I've gone to so many conferences and talked to so many, like I did like a few AI conferences even in like South Korea and in Vietnam. And even there, they're like, yes, we love it. But there's so much that's happening that's changing. But in order to get to that expert level, you have to start one at a time. There was actually one, she gave a TED talk on this and I was there in Vietnam and she said 20 hours. It takes 20 hours to feel like an expert in something and feel like that you've gotten some traction. So if you can spend 20 hours diving into one product or one type of system, learning one aspect of AI, you're going to be an expert because we're such in a pivotal point in time right now with AI that no one's really an expert unless they give it a shot and actually start to learn. And this is the time where everyone's learning right now. So if you can put those 20 hours in right now, you're going to be so much more knowledgeable than the other person who hasn't done that work.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Such good advice. So, last question. If someone's listening to this and feeling like they're drowning in admin or tech confusion, what's the one thing you'd want them to walk away and remember from this episode?
Oh, if they are drowning in tech confusion, I think it is just always take a step back. And I think this is probably what you would tell your client. Is just
Good
take a
advice.
moment and breathe. And it's the same thing. I think it's a good advice regardless of what it is that you're facing. And in this case, it might be tech overwhelm, but just take a step back and breathe. It's all going to be okay. But let's get organized. I think that that's
Yeah.
the most important piece is like as exciting as it is to just jump right in and get your 20 hours into one product. I think just where are you finding those 20 hours of your time?
Yeah.
At what part of your schedule? What are you sacrificing for that? Because it's either time or it's money. And so instead of going blindly in, I think it's important to just understand like where you're going to pull that time and resource from. So
Yeah. And I
yes.
love that. I mean, and that goes back to the process mapping and being able to get a good visual. That could probably give you a lot of direction around this stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a vision board, but with like actionable, like what you're actually doing with your
It's
practice.
like, let's actually put this into action for sure. Yes, I love that. So, how do people find you if they want to talk to you or work with you or learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so for mental health providers, I have my website, tntesolutions.com. On there, you'll be able to get a better understanding of the work that I do, schedule a free chat with me, and also if you're interested in being on the directory that I'm building to connect therapists and mental health providers to travelers. That form is also on that website, TNTE Solutions. And really, it's TNTE Solutions. It's for the mental health providers, but TNTE stands for Travel Not to Escape. So if you're interested on the other side, travelnottoescape.com.
I love that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always so fun to chat with you, Kim.